YouTube? It's your boy Rollo Jenkins. Man, oh man, oh man. Good night of fights, I suppose. You know, not the greatest night. The Danny Garcia Lucas Matthysse fight was certainly a wonderful, pleasant surprise for the night. But I wanted to make this video to talk about the big controversy. CJ Ross 114 card. They got everybody in arms. Got people wanting to nail her to the cross and burn that bitch while she on it. Got people ready to stick Rusty Pose in her cuda. Chop her motherfucking fingernails and toenails off. Peel them bitches back with some pliers. They ready to hang CJ. Guess what? I'm here to defend CJ. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, I am. I'm here to defend CJ. This is my stance on this one. A few years ago, I would be saying the same exact thing that everybody else is saying. What the hell was that bitch looking at? What was she watching? How in the hell could she possibly have scored that fight the way she scored it? There's no way. But it happened to me. It's really weird because I've mentioned this in prior videos, and some of you all will recognize me mentioning this before. I remember when I went to the Silverdome, and I went to see the live fight of Timothy Bradley versus Devin Alexander. And when I was there and I was watching that fight, and to make it relative to how we seen it, me and the immediate people around me, how we seen that fight, it was like, in basketball terms, after the first quarter, it was like 20 to 1 after the first quarter. Second round, which would be the second quarter, it was 40 to 2. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it seemed when I was there. But then, when I got home and I watched the DVR'd version of the fight, it was a completely different fight. I still think that Bradley won. But when I was there live, I didn't see 20 seconds of the fight that Devin Alexander won, let alone rounds. But when I got home and I was actually able to watch it from TV angles, it was a different fight. It was a completely different fight. And I still thought that Bradley won, and Bradley won a majority of the rounds. But there were some rounds that were close, and some that I even gave to Alexander once I watched it on a tube at the crib. And another example I want to give. I happened to be live doing some photography at a fight once. So I'm actually next to a judge, which is a good friend of mine. I know they don't like to do interviews, or he doesn't, and I know a referee I'm pretty cool with, referee Frank Garza, and I know he also mentioned to me that he doesn't like to do interviews, and I understand why. But it just so happens I'm sitting next to my boy Dan Grascheck, and he was judging the fight. So I'm literally sitting next to him as he's judging the fight. And the chair that he would be judging the fight, I'm sitting next to him. Now his chair is slightly more elevated than the regular seats, but not much more. You know what I'm saying? Not really much more to make a huge difference. So I'm sitting there with my camera, and I don't know either one of these guys. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to just sit here until somebody tell me to move. I wasn't supposed to be there, but nobody told me to move, so I just stayed there. And I'm watching this fight, and I'm like, fuck, this is some hard shit to do. Albeit it was a close fight, I believe. I mean, I can't even remember what the actual scores were on this fight, or even if it went to decision, somebody probably got knocked out. But while I was there, it's different. It's fucking hard. It's hard as fuck. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole lot. I mean, it's just way different than the angles and the shit that we see on TV. And plus, we only get one angle when you're live. You see one fucking view, one angle, and that's it. When we're watching this shit on TV, we get to see the best angles, wide views, you know what I'm saying? All of that shit. The referee ain't never gonna get in the way. We ain't never gonna have our backs to the fighters. The shit ain't never gonna be in the corner where we really can't see it too well. Nah, we always get the best angle on TV. Always. So, in saying that, I'm gonna say this. I do not agree with her score. I think that Floyd Mayweather won the fight. I seen 2 rounds that I would clearly give to Canelo. But I seen other rounds that were close enough that you can make a case for Canelo. And rounds that also were close enough that you could have missed some things and thought that Canelo may have pulled out a round. Reason being is Floyd Mayweather didn't Arturo Gotti Canelo Alvarez. It wasn't a Gotti type performance. No, he didn't body him like Gotti. It wasn't even as bad as Guerrero. You know, it was a lot closer fight than the Guerrero fight was, you know. Canelo did some really good counterpunching in the fight. He actually fought way better than I thought he would. But he still but that wasn't saying much because I gave him very, very, very little chance in this fight. So that being said, he still handily lost the fight, I believe. But the fight was still a lot closer than I expected it to be, which in turn gives me the conclusion, or I lead to this conclusion here, is that I don't think that CJ Ross was paid off, or, you know, she was being biased, or, you know, just on some bullshit. I don't. What I can tell you is this. If Floyd Mayweather had beaten Canelo in the fashion that he beat Robert Guerrero, I could understand people having this gripe about the scores. But the fight was a lot closer. And after the 3rd round, I remember sitting there with all the fellas, and after the 3rd round, I told them, I said the score is going to be all over the place. And it was somewhere toward the 10th or the 11th round, somebody told me, nah, man, he won. I said, no, I know he won, but the score's going to be all over the place. And I just knew that those early rounds were close enough that if somebody was looking to give Canelo the benefit of the doubt, they could. I didn't know if they would or not, but they were close enough that you could have made a case for Canelo in some of those early rounds. Round 1 and 2 easily could have been Canelo's rounds. Not saying that I gave them to Canelo, but I think that those rounds were close enough that if you were looking to give Canelo rounds, you could have gave him those rounds. I believe it was the 8th round and maybe the 11th. It was either the 11th or the 12th. I think Canelo clearly won. He absolutely, positively won for sure. If you gave him rounds 1 and 2, or rounds 1 and 3, or 2 and 3, then you only needed to find 2 other rounds that you think that Floyd Mayweather didn't absolutely dominate. The rounds were close enough that you could say that Canelo may have won. I know people think that that score was egregious, but that's part of the reason that they have 3 judges and not 1. What we see on TV is a whole hell of a lot different than the shit that a judge sees in the ring. At that angle, at that view, at that perspective. And imagine this. for you other sports fans, imagine this. Imagine Chris Paul, no, Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose playing 1-on-1 half court, right? And you are a judge or an official for this 1-on-1 matchup. Your spot is center court, dead center court. And these are the parameters. The 3-point line is the boundaries. That's out of bounds. Any point scored are 2 points except for inside the paint. Anything inside the paint is 1 point. So anything inside the paint would be any foot. If you jump from inside the paint with a toe on the line, that's 1 point. If you shoot the shot and you land inside the paint, even just a toe, and it lands inside the paint when you shoot your shot, that's considered in the paint, which is 1 point. So you got to watch out of bounds. If a player steps out of bounds and they shoot a shot and make it, you're not supposed to count that. You know, that doesn't count. So can you imagine having to see and determine all of that shit while Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose are playing? There's no scorekeeping either. You got to keep the score. You got to remember who made what buckets and what points they should have given for the shots that they've made. That's a lot to dissect. You know, when we're sitting around watching the fight, we just get to watch that shit. We don't have to count the punches or figure out who did better or this, that, and the third in a fight. When you're actually that close and you have to watch that shit becomes extremely difficult. There's so much shit that you're trying to look for and analyze and dissect that it's not that spectator shit that we are looking at. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like scouts and shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, some folks ever seen or talked to a scout and you like, well, so-and-so, he good as fuck, man. Dude is a beast. And then you hear a scout talk and he's like, well, yeah, well, he didn't really handle the ball that well. I watched him for 2 quarters and he can't really dribble till his left. Or the dude got power, but I seen he can't hit a curveball and he has a lot of trouble with a fastball. He got a rocket for an arm, but he doesn't read defenses very well. And all we see like, well, shit, this motherfucker just, you know what I mean? He just ran all over these motherfuckers. But he's seeing that the dude didn't read the defenses well. Yeah, we looking like, damn, he juked the shit out of this motherfucker and ran for 40 yards. But what he's looking at is the dude read the wrong play. He obviously could see that the defense was doing something, and this quarterback read the wrong play. The play broke down. He was able to get 40 yards. But what he's seeing is he didn't read the defense. So being a judge is a lot harder than just watching the fight and figuring out who you think landed the most punches. You're trying to analyze a little bit more than, did Floyd Mayweather dominate that round or did he just win? You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot harder from the perspective of sitting ringside with one view. You have no instant replay, no slow motion. It ain't like you can go talk it over with other officials or other judges. And that shit happens all the time in other sports. Basketball, you have 3 officials. Shot get made at the buzzer. Sometimes they get together and figure out if the shot was made, on time. Was it a foul? Should it be a 2-shot foul? They get together and discuss it. Football, I ain't even got to tell you about that shit. Baseball, sometimes the batter looks like he goes around. He doesn't really know. The umpire, the home plate umpire, he'll give it the call to the first base ump or the third base ump, to, because they have a different view of whether he had went all the way around, or if he broke the plane, or whether he went around on a swing or not. In boxing, we don't have that. You don't have that luxury to discuss it with the other officials. You can't go at the end of the round and say, well, at that minute and a half mark of the round, and I heard the crowd go out, did he really land punches, or was he just missing like a motherfucker? Because his back was to me. So they got to figure out, damn, I seen Canelo throwing punches, but I don't know if the midgets was landing or not. So it's some hard shit to do. Then I'm sure that I'll get this argument. Well, if you don't know if the punches landed, then you can't count them. Well, Floyd Mayweather, on the same spectrum, you would have to say the same thing. Well, I seen Floyd throw a punch, but I'm not sure if it landed, so I can't count it, right? So it all kind of balances out. I know that everybody wants to hang CJ Roth because this fucking score sounds ridiculous, but scoring a fight, being a judge live, looking at that shit from that view, is a whole fucking hell of a lot different than looking at that shit on your television. Trust me. And anybody who disagrees, I just dare them to go watch some amateur fights or something, sit, and do their thing. Go judge some amateur fights. Watch that shit at that perspective, and see what happens. I mean, you're gonna get some fights where one dude is really just that much better than the other guy, so much more dominant, and it's so obvious. But in that fight, even though I believe that Floyd won by a nice margin, every round he didn't win dominatingly. He wasn't beating the shit out of Canelo. He didn't Robert Guerrero him. It was a much tougher fight than Robert Guerrero. It definitely wasn't a Gotti fight. And even the Miguel Cotto fight. You know what I'm saying? The thing about the Miguel Cotto fight is, I think the rounds were, even in that fight, more distinctive. The rounds that Cotto won were distinctively Cotto's rounds. And the rounds that Mayweather won were distinctively Mayweather's rounds. But I think in this fight, there weren't a whole lot of dominating rounds by either guy. Yeah, so don't get it twisted, y'all. Don't get it twisted. I do believe Floyd Mayweather won the fight by a nice margin. And the margin being, I don't think that he beat Canelo up, but I think that he won rounds, And boxing, the way it's scored, is unlike any other sport. If in football or boxing, which is in contrast, if I score 21 points in the first quarter, we don't start over in the second quarter, but you do in boxing. If I beat the fuck out of you in the first round and you just barely squeak out the second round, then it's an even fight. In football, if I score 21 points in the first quarter and none in the second quarter, and you scored 3 points, we're not even. You know what I'm saying? Boxing is the only sport where that kind of dynamic happens. You know what I mean? It's still one fight, but that first round doesn't carry over to the second round. So it's so much easier for the perspective of what is right and wrong to be perceived as fucked up, or, you know what I mean? We see bad calls and bad shit in sports all the time. All the time. A holding penalty or a fucking late hit, Calvin Johnson getting touchdowns taken away. We see that shit all the time. All the time. But see, the only difference is with boxing is, for the most part, we decide the outcome of a game. Take, for instance, the Seattle Seahawks or, the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. One call changed the outcome of the game. Essentially. But if there wasn't a holding call on, 3rd and 3 earlier in the drive or some shit, maybe it wouldn't have come down to that one last play. You know what I'm saying? The Super Bowl, if they call holding on that last play of the game, you know what I'm saying? Will San Francisco get 4 more chances because of one call? And if they had made the call, would it have been a good call? So it's the same thing in boxing. I seen him throw punches, but I'm not quite sure if they landed. But I don't want to not give him credit if they did land, or give him credit if they didn't. But this is bang, 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 bang. There ain't no replays. I can't go back and look at that shit. I can't call timeout. I can't discuss it with nobody else. I just got to keep it moving. Round 1, round 5, round 8, round 12. I just got to keep it moving. So if I get it wrong, if it was spots in the fight where I fucked up, I can't go look back at a replay. I can't go discuss it with the other judge. I can't ask the motherfucker who's sitting behind me. You know what I'm saying? I just gotta keep it moving. So people gotta give judges in boxing a break. It's hard, but that is the whole reason why there's 3 judges in a fight and not 1. Because it's too hard. That shit is too hard. There ain't no breaks in it and shit. You get a minute break where ain't nothing going on. You know what I'm saying? There ain't like a pause or a timeout. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, in boxing, everything counts. You know what I'm saying? In football, it's like a play can happen on one side of the field. That don't necessarily affect the actual result of the play. So if you call a holding on a defensive back, or a fucking holding on a lineman, or a receiver steps out of bounds and he comes back in bounds, but the quarterback don't even throw in the ball, and it don't necessarily even affect the play. But a referee could have missed the receiver stepping out of bounds. You know what I'm saying? But because the ball wasn't even thrown over there or caught, it don't affect the play anyway. In boxing, you don't have that shit. Everything affects the fight. If a punch is thrown and you're not sure if it landed, what the fuck do you do? There ain't no replay, no timeout. Let me discuss this with somebody. If you think the punch landed, but you're not sure, what the fuck do you do? That's all I'm saying. It's your boy, Rollo Jenkins. Holla.